international board certified
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
lactation consultant. That's okay. I got thrown into the trenches of motherhood, and then I realized, you know what? I needed a little bit of help. I wanted to give my daughter that was born prematurely my human or breast milk. And when it wasn't easy, I started seeking out resources and started realizing how challenging it was when we left the hospital. So I decided to be part of the solution to the problem that I experienced. And after getting my certification for lactation consultant, the gold standard, I launched my private practice, the Breast Choice Lactation. And we've been going hard now for about 3, almost 4 years as a private practice, and then 7 years as a IBCLC. So bringing lived experience as well as clinical experience to you ladies today. I like engaging conversations. I love giving giveaways. I love pouring into my community. If you have a question, I'm a person that's very approachable. You can always ask me. So if you have questions, we'll have you guys drop that in the chat. I want to see where you guys, I know we've been kind of hearing where you're from. Let me know though where you are in your journey right now. Where are you at in your journey as far as breastfeeding goes? And if you're still expecting, are you going back to work tomorrow? You're going back to work next week? Drop in the chat for me where you are in that journey so I can make sure I speak to where you're at. Okay, we see you. L&D. Let me know. Sarah, I see you on the call. Let us know where you're from, where you are in your journey.
You just got Stacy that joined. Okay.
Welcome, Stacy.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be perfect for you. Okay, awesome. You're going to get some good information, Marie, when the time comes on how to navigate this. Okay, January, February. Awesome. So you got some time to kind of prepare. So it's going to hit home for everybody. So if you're just navigating it or you kind of already are in it, we're going to really hop right on into it. So today we're going to talk about how to prepare going back to work, how to protect your milk supply. It's a big thing. How to protect your breastfeeding journey. You know, oftentimes, even when we're working from home, we may have another caregiver that is actually watching our babies while we're working from home. So we're going to talk about implementation of pumps. There'll be some little screenshots where you can take pictures of sample pump schedules based on different work shifts. And then we'll just have some little miscellaneous stuff. So as you guys navigate getting ready to go back to work, let me know what comes to mind when you think about going back to work. What's one word you could give it? Thinking about having to leave your baby, your beautiful baby, and head back to work. Let me know. Okay, Sarah. Exclusively breastfeeding. Okay. Love it. Congratulations, Stacy. Anxiety. Okay. Overwhelmed, scared. Okay. Well, guess what? I'm going to wipe some of that overwhelming and that anxiety away from you guys today because I'm going to show you that you still can be extremely successful when you do this, especially when you have the resources that you guys need. All right. So we think about going back to work. We know that it's imminent. We know that it's coming, right? It's not anything that we're excited about, but we know that it's coming. So when we think about that, we want to get ready, right? So we want to stay ready so we're not waiting until the day before work to start thinking this through. So for my families, I really encourage them, hey, if you know that you're going to return back to work and you know at some point that your baby is going to need bottles, let's get proactive and let's implement this early on. So 3 to 5 weeks is really the sweet spot for me on when to start pumping and when to introduce a bottle. So if you already are navigating that and you're having some challenges, I would say that you want to really be intentional about offering a bottle to your baby at least once a day until they can really master it and they're able to take that. And we'll also talk about like how much should I be given, that kind of stuff. And then if you're still expecting and you're kind of like, well, Tiffani, how do I start this? How much do I need for when I go back to work? I got you too. I got you covered. And so if you are still expecting and you're kind of thinking about how much you need, despite what the TikTok and the Instagram streets might show you, you truly only need really 2 days worth of milk. And so for most of us that are re-entering the workforce around 6 to 8 weeks, On average, our babies then would be taking about 3 to 4 ounces every 3 hours. And so I'll do the math for you and save you from having to use your brain cells to do that. So I overcompensate for it. And I say if you work an 8-hour shift, and your baby takes 3 to 4 ounces, you need 16 ounces for each day that you're away. So you really only need to have 32 ounces in your reserve. And remember, I'm overcompensating. Really, you probably could get away with 12 ounces in full transparency, but 32 gives a lot of the families that I work with a little bit more peace of mind as they get ready to navigate going back to work. So in thinking about that, does that sound like something that's realistic? Does that sound like something that seems super scary? Does that sound doable? Is that what you expected to hear? Is that not what you expected to hear? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Awesome, awesome. And you're going to have a 6-month-old, Sarah, so things may look a little bit different. What a blessing to be able to be off of work for almost 6 months. That's amazing, Sarah. So for you, Sarah, it might look a little bit different. So we can definitely kind of talk maybe at the end about how that might look different. So underproducing, guess what, y'all? Our bodies are so amazing. They're already equipped to make milk. So if you're still expecting around 12 to 16 weeks, you start making milk. And then that's going to be what we call early colostrum milk. Your body's going to figure out what to make for your baby based on how much you tell it to. So if you want to have a full milk supply, spoiler alert from last session, the first 40 days, you want to be having at least 8 milk removals. So 8 times you need to be either nursing or pumping around the clock. If you do that for the first 40 days, your body will get the signals to have a full milk supply. And that will make going back to work a breeze. So for my families that are still expectant, a very easy way that you can start to build this reserve is once you get past that 2-week mark of letting baby just kind of feed, if you're planning to nurse baby to the breast, as soon as you get past that 2-week mark, you can start pumping once a day. And the expectation is actually very low. So it's not the freezer sachets that you see. If you've nursed that baby, I only would expect for you to get 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce after you nurse them combined from both breasts. And if you think about it, 1 ounce a day, that's 7 ounces in 1 week if you only did it once a day. If you got more than that, okay, I remember I'm kind of undercompensating for and over-regulating for it to make it a breeze for you guys. So and thinking about that, you really in 2 or 3 weeks could have a plentiful amount for getting ready to go back to work. Because again, the 32 ounces is me overcompensating for peace of mind. And oftentimes your body is making a lot more than your baby needs those first couple weeks when you give it the good signals. So making sure the first couple weeks that you are keeping that demand going. All right. And then we're going to call on partner support. So who's your village? Let me know in the chat, who you going to call on? Are you calling on a sister, a cousin, an auntie? Who we putting on this dishwashing duty? Who are we going to have help us out? Okay, come on, boyfriends and husbands. Yes, we got things for them to do for us. They feel so helpless, y'all. They don't know what to do. How can I support? She's nursing or feeding or pumping. I can't give the baby food. Okay, yes. Okay, let me tell you. I have a 4 and a 7-year-old, and I did not have those dishwashers. But now y'all have those fancy dishwashers, and I'm kind of jealous. I did not have those out. So we'll kind of unpack a little bit about what storage also should look like. Okay. Yeah, the 10-year-old. Okay, we may not put them on dishwashing duty, but we may ask them to go bring diapers for us, bring wipes for us, do that kind of stuff. And then we might just let those bottles kind of clean them with soap and water. And then once we get everyone settled for the night, we can kind of unpack those dishes a little bit. So our support systems may look different, but that's something to kind of start thinking about as we navigate this. All right, so protecting your supply. What does that mean to y'all when I say that? I got this slide up here to kind of give you some insight, but what does protecting your supply mean? What does that mean? How are you going to protect your supply? How are you going to keep this milk milking? Yeah, it's going to be some late nights for you, Josephine. That's okay. We got you. Staying on schedule, absolutely. Routine versus schedule. We got to think about that. Even those verbiage and that wording has a different meaning in postpartum. Routine is, okay, this is kind of, we get into a little ebb and flow. Schedule means it's very rigid. and there's no flexibility. So you have to think about which one of those is going to work better for your life, especially as you're navigating postpartum. I find oftentimes it's routine that gives us a little bit more ebb and flow. Yep, Sarah, you got it. Keep producing. All right, so in order to protect our milk supply, it's here again, y'all. It must be important. I got the first 40 days on there and a goal of at least 8 times a day we're going to be removing milk. And then we also want to think about if we're going back to work, there are different kind of pumps, but all the pump parts eventually are going to need to be changed. So we want to make sure that pieces like this that are small get changed out very frequently. So anything that's soft, pliable, flexible, just think about it losing its elasticity over time. So if you're pumping a lot, like 3 or 4 times at work, you get ready to change those out every 30 days. And now insurance is changing and covering a lot of those pump parts. Marie, it would be include, so milk removals means pumping and breastfeeding, so combined together. Great question.
She had
So
another
anything,
question too. I'm sorry, Maria had another question. She was asking about pumping as of week 34 to have colostrum ready when baby gets here. She wanted to know, how does that affect her supply?
Okay. So ideally, we would not have you start pumping while you are still pregnant. So you would not want to do that unless that's been recommended by your provider, like your midwife, your OB, to help with inducing labor, because when the nipples and the breast tissue is stimulated, it releases a hormone called oxytocin that tells your uterus to kind of constrict and contract, and that can cause contractions in labor. So unless that's been recommended by your OB or midwife to help with induction of labor, that's not something that I would encourage. There are instances that, like midwives that I know, they will use that as a catalyst to bring labor in if a mom is past her due date, like 40 weeks. Great question, though. You're so welcome. Yes, that's why we're here in this space, to learn from each other. Great question. Hand expression can be a great tool to use, and that can be utilized like the last week or two before you have your baby to get you comfortable with how to get the milk out. So you should definitely tune back into our first segment that we did in our series that gave a little bit more of the breastfeeding basics. Rita can probably drop that link to that YouTube for us, maybe. I don't know. Is it on YouTube?
It is. I'll drop the link in the chat.
Yeah, so it'll have some of that, Marie, some of that basics information like that in there. Okay, and so do we want to wait until we got to go back to work to start pumping? Should that be our first time doing it? We have not done this before. It is a new experience. Should we wait till the day before work? Absolutely not. So we're going to practice it because we want to see, do we respond well to that pump? Does it hurt? We want to make sure that we actually have a really good sizing too. So this piece of plastic is called a phalange, and this is what your nipple is supposed to go into. And so if you can see right here on my depiction, oh, I might have to turn my background. Okay, there we go. You can see right here, that is a lot of space around that nipple. That is not going to feel good because it's starting to pull a lot of this areola in, and that can be uncomfortable. So for this person, believe it or not, instead of getting this standard size 24 that comes with it, they would actually need to go all the way down to a size 10, which is crazy. So I actually carry the size small phalanges. So that's something that I can support virtually with. It's very easy to do that during a virtual visit. I have you order a little ruler tool. We go on a virtual call together. I help you get size for it. I go on Amazon. I find the exact one for your pump. We order that, and then we can do a follow-up one to see how that feels and if you're responding well to it. So if you're pumping a lot, it's really important for comfort and also for milk production. What do you think would happen if you use a size that is not comfortable and is not getting the stimulation directly to the tip of the nipple? What do you think would happen? What do you think would happen? Let me know in the chat. That's right, Sarah. You got to speaking like a pro right there. Absolutely, Josephine. So that's something that you guys really want to make sure, if you're still expectant, or if you haven't hard to start pumping, or if you find yourself feeling like it hurts or it's uncomfortable when you pump right now, that's not normal. And so we definitely want to get a flange sizing done. Okay. And that's something that, like I said, a lactation professional such as myself can do to help make pumping a breeze. All right. So we also are thinking about how else we can protect milk supply. So we also want to make sure that in the evenings when we get back to work from work, do we just forget about nursing our baby and just go to sleep? We tired. Do we just go to sleep and say, oh, forget it. I'm just going to let this milk sit here. What do you think that that would signal to the body if you don't get that milk out? What does that signal to the body? Shantae, is it possible for there to be pain after 3 months? Nope, you should not have pain. You should definitely connect with me and we can get you a phalange sizing and fitting done because you should not have pain at all. It should feel just kind of like a pull tug sensation, or you might feel even like a tingling sensation when the milk releases out of the milk ducts and goes down to your nipple, but it should not be any pain. I love that, Josephine. Love that, love that, love that. Yep, you would stop making milk. So your milk production would definitely decrease. The more drained the breasts are, the more milk they will make. The more full they are, the more it signals to the body, I don't need that. Okay. Who's ever heard the term pace feeding? What does that mean? What does pace bottle feeding mean? What does that mean? Anybody heard of it? Excuse me. No? Okay. So whenever you have your, yep, it's a slower feeding. Whenever you have your caregiver or yourself or whomever, daycare providers, we even teach this and have handouts and information for daycare providers. Whenever someone else is feeding the baby, old school way we used to learn is that we would just hijack that bottle straight up in the air and let them just go to town on it. But now what we've learned is that we actually want to mimic the flow of what the baby is getting at the breast with what they're getting with the bottle. So in order to kind of make them work for it, I'll even kind of tap right here on their mouth a little bit, let them open wide, and then I'm going to keep this bottle horizontal, and then every couple sucks, especially if I see them just gulping and gulping and gulping, I'm going to just tilt it down a little bit and let them slow down. Can anybody recall when I said it's the ideal time to start doing bottle feeding? All right, Marie. Absolutely. So it may even look like you're feeding the baby in a position, or the partner is feeding the baby in a position that's close to the breast, like this. And we're going to keep that bottle horizontal. And then every couple sucks, we're going to kind of tilt it down. And then we're slowly going to go back up. Now, if you notice with your particular body, when you're feeding your baby from your body, that, hey, my milk flows really, really fast and my baby can handle it, guess what? They may not need that pace bottle feeding. They may be okay with just kind of letting them chug and go at their own flow. So make sure that you really customize it to what you see your baby doing at your breast. You're trying to mimic and model that with this. Does that not increase air ingestion? Okay, they will swallow some air when the bottle is horizontal and the nipple is filled with milk, but horizontal, but we're able to easily burp that out. And the benefit of the slower feeding outweighs the risk of the air that they may ingest. So, great question. I get that a lot. Y'all are doing good. Y'all got me trucking right along here. Okay. So, dun 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 dun. Drop in the chat which y'all have heard about the pumps in these TikTok and Instagram streets. Let me know, what pump are you thinking about? What pump do you have questions about? What pump have you heard really good feedback about? Let me know. And Rita, which one of y'all have the motif one, right?
Yeah, the motif or glow. And then we've got the Zoomy. That's yeah, the Zoomy Z1.
Yes, I love both of those.
Yeah, the motif is really, a lot of the moms like that Zoomy.
Yes, I gotten to test drive the motif glow. One of my clients actually had that recently, so I got to test drive it and we got to work through that one. Okay. And then I use the Zomi a lot in my practice, so I'm very familiar with that.
Got it.
Okay, so really good things about Spectra. Yes, you will hear great things about Spectra. Mom Cozy and Freestyle. Sarah, are those serving you well? Let me know. So I don't have a bias to anything. I just want y'all to be educated and informed. So we're going to look really quickly at the different pump types. So this is one of the most underrated pumps right here that doesn't get a good rep. But baby, let me tell you, you need to get something out of there quick and get her done, and you're dealing with engorgement. This right here, which is a hand pump, can be a complete game changer. I wish that I had known more about it with my first. So this is called a manual or a hand pump. And so this is not a certain brand just because I wanted to be a little bit more unbiased on this particular session, but this is a hand pump and it literally is exactly what it sounds like. So the nipple goes in here, and right now you can see that I've decreased the diameter by putting this little insert in. So I've made it more smaller and narrow with this insert to fit. So based on what that person's nipple size is, I've said, hey, let's make this tunnel smaller. And I put an insert in there for increased comfort. And then once the nipple is actually in there, you can see it moving. Let's see if I can, there you go. See if you can see that. It's moving in there. It's moving a little bit for me. And it's all based on, there we go. Now you can see it. It's all based on how much suction. So if I was to put this handle all the way right there, can you imagine how that might feel to your breast tissue? So just think about, you got to find your own rhythm, your own beat. You get to be in full control. So nobody's dialing in a certain number. You can just pull on this as you see fit. If you need a little bit more suction, you can kind of do a little bit deeper. But what you notice I'm not doing is release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. You see what that is doing to that nipple. It is totally pulling that nipple in there and releasing it and putting a lot of tension on there. Some people will use like the hack where they do a long hold, but again, I don't have the lever all the way to the bottle. I'm just coming like halfway and I'm keeping a hold on it, and then I'm gently releasing, and then I'm going back into my hold. So I really like this for on the go, like you go on a brunch with your friends. You don't want to have to whip out a wearable. You could step away for 5 or 10 minutes. You could use this on each breast. Drain your milk pretty quickly because you're in full control when you are going through the transition. So for those that are still expectant and pregnant, this can be really helpful with getting some of that extra milk off, and you can collect that and save that for back to work in those first couple of days. It's much more efficient than the electric pump when your milk is first transitioning. Okay. And then we have one of our wall pumps, which is, think about like it's bigger, right? And so it's going to have a lot more power. So this is the Spectra, just for visualization's sake, the one that I decided to grab. And this one in particular is rechargeable. Just think about it having a much stronger motor. So if you're first starting out, you're past that, first couple of days, or you're only going to pump, you want to use this one of this capacity that you can plug in, because you think about anything you plug in is going to have a stronger power. Something that's battery operated and is more compact may not be as strong. And remember, those first couple of days, we're really trying to get our body to know what to do. We want to make sure that we have efficient and effective milk removal. So this might be one that you start with, or also in the instance of the Mommy Care Kit, the Zomi Z1. It's portable, but it also has a really good and strong motor just like this. And it can have either tubing connected to it like I have here, or it can have like a wearable looking cup connected to it with the tubing that will make it a little bit more hands-free. So those are really good options. A lot of my clients like the feature of the Zomi because it has a couple different modes on there, and some will kind of give stem, 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 and then a little pull. And for a lot of moms, they have a really good response to that. So I really like their products that they make, and they have a really good, very great customer service. One of their offerings with Zomi is that if you get the standard phalange sizes that comes with the pump and it does not fit, they have a free insert that they usually send that has a QR code, and you can go on their website and get your size that you need for free 99. They will send it to you. So that's one of the great things about that brand. And then we go to kind of like portable pumps, like I said, the Zomi is considered one. This is a pumpable one. It just means you might need tubing still. You're going to need tubing still attached. You can have those wearable cups, or you can have the hard and traditional phalanges, like this connected. You kind of have to see what you respond best to. A lot of times when we're first starting out, we're going to respond a little bit better to these standard phalanges when they're sized well. All right. And then last but not least is our convenience one. Now, I didn't have this with my first, but now we've got these nice little wearable pumps that have come out. And so for the Mommy Care Kit brand, that's going to be the Motif. So that one allows you to have a little bit more convenience, a little bit more flexibility. So I would say that something like the wall pump is your primary pump, so it's your main gig. And then something like this is like your secondary one, your convenience one. So if you respond really well to this, great. You are one of the unicorns that probably have a higher milk capacity, and you can get away with using this as you see fit. But for most of us, we may need a combination of both. So I might use this when I'm going back to work. But whenever I go to my lunch break, I might decide to sit down with my Spectra and plug it in. So just thinking about that. Okay, so I'm going to take a look in the comments for a second. I actually have the Motif Aura Glow and Ardo Alyssa. Oh, I like the Ardo Alyssa because you can do the power pumping. It has a power pumping mode. I usually recommend that for NICU families. I heard the S2 pumps are actually amazing, and I was actually thinking of buying one since my pump isn't travel. Okay. Yep, you just have to figure out what's going to work best for your lifestyle. I have heard that about the Mom Cozy leaking. That's kind of a common issue with some of the wearable pumps. You have to just get a really good seal. All right, so really good feedback. Y'all can definitely take some of the feedback from people in the chat about which pumps they love. And as we think about like navigating back to work, I made some little sample schedules for you guys. If you're going back to work and you have a traditional kind of how to get enough sessions in. So if you're just starting out and you still need 8 milk removals, it's right here. You guys can take a picture of that. To see it, it'll also be in the free guide that you guys receive after today's session. And then if you need just 6 milk removals, maybe your baby's a little bit older, like Sarah, your baby's 6 months, you probably can get away with 6 milk removals by then, potentially. So this is just an example of what that may look like. But if you're in that first 40 days, this is more where you're going to want to be at. And again, I did make it on like based on an 8 to 5 schedule. So I hope that that is helpful for you guys. All right, so what are some tips that we can think of? And you guys can feel free to share some in the chat as well. But in going back to work, the biggest barrier is that we're often, thank you, Rita, you're amazing. We're often separated from our baby. And so we want to think about like, what can we do to either mimic or model or curate a relaxing atmosphere at work if we're not working from home? Or if we are working from home, what do we want that home office to look like that's going to be conducive for us to have good milk ejections and letdowns and releases and let our oxytocin flow? Do we need to have a diffuser in the room? Do we need to kind of put a lamp in the room, have the lights down low and turned off whenever we go to pump? If we're into LED lights, do we want to have a calming complementary color for the mood that we may be feeling? Are we going to have pictures of our baby pent up all over the wall for us to see? Are you going to put a picture of your baby on your pump? I really, really, really encourage like watching videos of your baby whenever you are pumping, because the mind is going to connect to that video that you're seeing, and your body is ingrained and really trained for your baby. And so whenever you see a picture or you listen to a video of like the coo sounds they're making or their cry even that they're making, all of a sudden your body just has a hormonal response to that, and the milk starts to eject from all the way up here going down here. Now, some people can feel their milk ejections, letdowns, releases, and some people don't. It doesn't mean that one person's going to have a different relationship or a different breastfeeding journey because they don't feel them. Oftentimes, It's just based on our musculature and our vascular. And if we have looser tissue, sometimes we'll have more leaking and ejections, but it's very customized. There are some people that have unpleasant sensations and feelings whenever that milk ejection happens. And we usually encourage them to use guided imagery or smell to kind of help offset that. So if you're having very unpleasant sensations whenever that ejection is happening, smelling some lavender or sweet orange in that moment and starting to smell that before you even go to pump will kind of trick your brain and have brain remapping to allow you to not have those unpleasant feelings. Sometimes it's nausea. Sometimes your heart rate might go up. It usually is very temporary. It's not usually during your whole pumping time frame, but it can happen and be more pronounced when that ejection is happening. And so we just hold space and respect and say that it is a real thing. It's not in your head. You're not imagining it. And we give supportive tips on how to combat that and work through that. Okay. And then are we going to start talking to our manager about the accommodations that we need when we get to work? Or do you think we should start having these conversations before we return? Let me know in the chat. Absolutely. So let me know if you have a pump room at your place of employment, and let me know if you've actually seen what it looks like. You have a manager that's already on top of it and wanting to support your journey. I love it. Maybe they're on to the fact that what a lot of organizations are, that when we have families that are re-entering the workspace, in order to keep them on board, we want them to be happy. And so any accommodations that we can make is going to make not only a healthier employee, but also a healthier baby and an offspring. And that baby will actually be less sick. And so that employee is less likely to miss work. And so it really is a win-win for everyone. And it's a much more positive environment to go back into when you know that your manager is supportive of it, right? I'm glad to hear that. Okay, no pump room, and that's what I'm afraid about. Okay, so we need to talk about that, because if there are more than 50 employees for that place of employment legally, I would definitely snapshot a picture of this pump act. They have to provide you a place. It has to be separate, and it has to have a door on it. The door technically does not have to have a lock on it, but it does need to have a closed door to it. There has to be a comfortable chair, and they are supposed to accommodate like a little side table. And it cannot be a break. It should not have to be the bathroom or a break room. So those are all the things. They can give up their office, but they can do that. If it's a closed and comfortable office, they can give up their office for you, for sure. I've had principals do that for some teachers that were navigating going back to work. The principal gave up their office for those parents. Thank you, Rita. You're the best. Okay, love that for you. I'm a photo editor. Does the chemical smells affect? So it's not going to affect the safety of your milk. However, it might not just feel like a relaxing enough environment, and that could inhibit your oxytocin flow. So I would start having those conversations, Josephine. Now, today you guys will get a sample, a guide, a blueprint that I gave you on how to thrive in the first 7 days going back to work. And then exclusively being in the space today, you can get the full term version of it. And I've already drafted and created a letter for HR that you can use as a template. And you can share that with your human resources if you need to. More than 50 employees is kind of the rule of thumb. So if it's a smaller entity, unfortunately, they can get grandfathered in a little bit on some of this stuff. But I have resources for you guys in the guide today that talks about like all the different laws that currently are in place for pumping and pump breaks and all the things. Okay. Okay, as long as it feels clean. So it has to feel good for you, but technically and legally, it does not have to be a bathroom space, just so you know, legally. You can ask them if you have just a glass space to accommodate you with drapes, curtains, or a covering. They should be able to accommodate that, Sarah. Okay. So we have to get a little bit more creative when it is a small practice. We can continue, we can still ask for those things and to be accommodated. And Department of Labor is who you would contact, your local Department of Labor if you feel like your place of employment is breaching any of these things. All right, we are trucking right along. Are y'all learning some stuff? Let me know in the chat. Oh, those are amazing. I like the little nose one too that has lavender and eucalyptus. Thank you for sharing. Great resources here. Moms helping each other. All right, so we want to use caution before we are dropping the middle of the night feeding or pump under 3 months, because your middle of the night feeding is when a hormone called prolactin that tells your body to make milk is its highest. And if you drop that middle of the night feeding, you will usually see your milk supply, not immediately. It could be 2 or 3 weeks, but it will start to down regulate because it gets the signal, hey, I'm weaning. You don't need all this milk. I can get you ready for fertility for another baby. That means that we're in the weaning stage. So you want to make sure that you still keep those middle of the night, at least 1 or 2 middle of the night feedings before 3 months. Okay. And then what are y'all's favorite snacks? Let me know in the chat. What are your favorite snacks? We want to have a bag full of snacks and a pump bag. What are y'all's favorite snacks? Love that. Okay, so Sarah, you're onto something, because guess what? Oatmeal is known to be a lactogenic food, meaning it supports milk supply. You could also add some chia seeds and flax seeds to those oatmeal banana muffins. They sound good. And that is also known to be milk supporting. So it's high in fiber and also will bring a little bit of protein in. If you're struggling with protein is really important for milk production. So you can even add some protein powder to those oatmeal banana muffins. Nuts are really great for milk production as well. Anything that's a good fat, like avocados, is helpful. Okay, the oatmeal cream pies. A lot of people think that is helpful. Sometimes it's pseudo effect, placebo effect, but the oatmeal component of that may be what's really working. Okay, and then we think about, like, you can also give something to your baby because your baby's going to be missing you too. So for the caregiver, you might squirt a little bit of your breast milk on their blankets or their clothes so that they can still smell you. They're missing you as well. You can also take one of their baby blankets and put it in a Ziploc bag, or one of their onesies that they had on, their pajamas that morning. Put that in a Ziploc bag to sustain that smell. And when you get to work and you go to pump, you can open that up, smell that aroma, and your body's going to have a response to that smell and help with the milk ejecting. You want to have conversations too with the care providers, daycare, and that kind of stuff on what your goals are so that they can be supportive of that. We don't want them overfeeding your baby, because if you're making just enough, which most of us do, and they're giving your baby an abundance in excess because they're not sure how else to comfort a primarily or exclusively breastfed baby, that could set you up for failure. So we want to make sure that we have the conversations. We want to teach them about paced bottle feeding, whomever is going to be carrying, whether that's an auntie or a grandmother. We want to make sure that they truly understand what paced bottle feeding is like, and pouring bottles with the amounts that you know your baby will take. So we, at 3 months, putting 6 ounces in one bottle is in excess, because babies that are breastfed, they truly usually only take 3 to 4 ounces max. Every now and then there may be a 5-ounce feeding, but that's when they get a lot older. So you want to make sure that there's only amounts in there that your baby's going to take. Breast milk is very resilient. It's very amazing. The composition of what's in it changes a lot. So when your baby is 3 or 4 months old, your body knows that based on the placenta, and if you're still nursing, the communication that you guys have when the baby latches, it's a signal to your body on what to make. And so your body knows, hey, baby's going through a growth spurt. Let me up the protein, or let me up the fat in this milk. So you don't have to give the baby a lot more volume, because what's in your milk is constantly changing. Unlike with other alternatives to breast milk, like formula, it's the same 19 calories over and over. So they're more likely to need a higher volume of it to meet their nutritional and their growing needs. But with breast milk, it's today it's a 5-course meal. Next day it might be a steak and chicken. So it's going to change based on what their needs are. I also put a tool here for you guys. If you're trying to figure out how much milk your baby needs for going back to work, there's this awesome website called Milk Calc. And you can put this information in and it'll kind of give you how much you need to get ready for preparing back to work. This is also a nice little depiction for you guys on what all to put in your pump bag, right? You want to have a nice nursing bra, some pump wipes, your chargers. You can use coconut oil or like a pumping spray to help whenever you are pumping to just make it a lot more comfortable. Your baby is not a piece of plastic, but this is. So when we use a food grade oil, it just makes this nipple glide in there and it decreases the friction that you're having up against that. So oftentimes a nipple butter or a pump spray that is not lanolin based can give you extreme comfort. You want to have your hydration pieces. You might want to have a little cooling pack. Again, y'all have all the tools now. So now there's like this, see if I can get it to show. Come on, let me be great. There we go. Now they have these double insulated containers like the Series Chill where you can put milk in there and you can also put ice inside of. And guess what? Now you can store your milk right here. So if you have a job where you may not want to put the milk in the fridge for whatever reason, sometimes we open those employee refrigerators and we'd be like, "Woo! What did I just get a whiff of? Who is cleaning? Who is on the fridge cleaning duty? What are these grown adults doing to this refrigerator? They just spilling stuff and looking at it." So you could keep that milk on you. This will last for 24 hours and then it'll go into the refrigerator. These are also some great little, thank you. I have to give it to Rita. She comes through with the screenshots for y'all. This is also a great screenshot. It gives you how long the milk is good for. So I do go a little more graceful than the CDC. So I will give you the best within and safe within. So best within 4 hours after you just express it. It can sit out at room temperature and that milk can be combined from the first day. Safe within 6 hours. Now, if it's a hot day outside, okay, work with me. If it's a cooler or colder day, you get more grace. In the refrigerator, best within 4 days, safe within 7 days. And then the freezer, we get 6 months. And if you have a deep freezer, we get a whole year. And if you are using refrigerators, just kind of put it towards the back. If you put it in the door and it's getting a lot of exposure from being opening, you just want to minimize that. Yeah. You found a good cheap one at Ross. Love that. Yes, and I'm sure on my website I have a Series Chiller code for like I think 10 or 15% off. So check that out. And then this is another great little resource for you guys. How much to feed your baby? I get asked that question a lot. So this is kind of just a generalized amount. Your baby could be a little unicorn and take a little bit more, but then oftentimes they're feeding less often. So if it's a baby that's taking 5 ounces, they're older, they may only take that 4 or 5 times a day. So how much milk you should give your baby is right there for you guys. And you can see I have like a range because, we're all different people and humans. They're all different babies. Some might be a little more petite and take a little less, but are growing at on their own growth curve and appropriately. All right. And then lastly, we have tools for you guys. So if you are wanting access to some of our products that we have a holistic line of nipple butters, healing sprays for damaged nipples, teas to help you bring your milk flow up if they have decreased. We have our Amazon favorites if you just want to go check out all the things we recommend. And then if you are interested in investing in the full back to work guide, we have the link there for you. But like I said, I have created a special guide exclusive for Mommy Care Kit. Today you guys will get access. Rita will just send that out to you guys. I've already sent it to her and it will set you guys up for success for going back to work.
Yes.
I will take questions. Oh, Josephine, what pumping spray do you recommend? So you want to make sure you know what your allergies are. So be cognizant of that. They have some that are like cleaner ingredients and more organic. This just happens to be a legendary milk one. It has it's coconut oil based. There's also Milk Effects makes one for people with allergies that's olive oil based with a little calendula in it. They also have one that's coconut oil based as well. And then Milk Drops also makes their own brand of holistic. Oh, it's broken. Okay, here, let me put it in the chat. It should not be broken, but I can give it to you. Let me put it right here. Thank you for letting me know. That should work. Let me make sure. Yep, that's it. Sorry that was broken. Thank you for letting me know. I will take can your nipple can your nipple size change over time of breastfeeding? Yes. Usually what I actually see is I can size you before you have your baby and then you have more swelling. So once you deliver the baby, those first couple days, your nipple size may go up a little bit, but once the swelling comes down, it'll kind of go back to what I originally sized you before you had your baby. And then a couple of months in, our tissue kind of changes a little bit and you may actually go down in size after about 3 or 4 months when your milk regulates. Great question, though. Great question. How often can a baby cluster feed? Oh, another good question. So we usually see cluster feeding around 2 days. It's like the most heightened. You will never experience it like that ever again. Your milk is trying to increase from drops and little beads of colostrum to teaspoons and tablespoons. So in order for that to happen, your body needs very frequent feeding for that milk to transition. And then anytime your baby is having what we call a growth spurt or a leap, which if you remember 369, that's usually when it happens. 369. I'm just kidding. Uh 369. So at 2 to 3 weeks, a growth spurt will happen. At 6 weeks is a big one. And then again around 9 weeks, which is 3 months. So 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So if you remember 369 and you kind of look, that is probably when the growth spurt is happening. Wonder Weeks is a great app that a lot of families will use to kind of track the growth spurts. And they'll see their babies doing all those different things and meeting their milestones. And that's how you kind of know, like, oh, okay, they need extra nutrition and comfort because they're having a big growth spurt. Okay, what about milk combination? I got milk pictures, but was told okay, so it gets a little iffy about combining. So I've been in this space for a long time. And like I said, I worked as a nurse first before lactation consultant. And for our more fragile population, for NICU babies, we wanted the parents to keep the milk completely separate, like not even combined from one day. And we still hold that true. But just recently, in the last year or two, they have changed that. And CDC has said if it is from the same day and it is the same temperature, it can all be combined. From a standpoint of just thinking it through, if you were to combine it from different days, nothing would happen to your milk. It's breast milk. It's amazing. It has antibodies in it. You would just lose time. So for example, if you pump that milk today and then you combined it with milk you pump tomorrow, then you still have to go from the oldest date for its storage. So if you're going to freeze that or whatever, you would use the oldest date, which would be yesterday in that example. So that's it. You just kind of lose time. And so the CDC just says they don't know enough to say that it's safe for combining past one day. But from a standpoint of like physiologically and knowing how breast milk is made and all the components of it, it's safe. It's just that you're going to lose time. If the baby is latching, the only way our bodies know what to produce. Nope, you nailed it, Sarah. Kissing them in the mouth, like that we instinctively do, is a way that you can communicate to your baby can communicate to your body what to make as well. It doesn't only come from having the baby latch onto the breast. Your baby could even lick your nipple, and there would still be some immune protection shared between you guys. That's a great way if you are primarily pumping. But yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to catch all the questions. My baby is combo feeding as far as breast and bottle, and I have a pump schedule, but not a breastfeeding schedule. So it's just kind of on demand. So where I feel like I barely have enough time to leave him by day to day for work. Okay, so I would say for you, you probably can get ahead. Are you Monday through Friday? I don't want to mispronounce your name. Is it Anaya? Anila? Anila? You can come off mute if you want,
It's
actually.
Anila.
Okay, Anila. Hi.
Hi.
You, I would say if are you Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or kind of what is your tell me what your work schedule looks like.
No, so right now I'm working only 3 days out of the week. So it's Tuesday, Thursday, and then some Fridays or Saturday. And
Okay.
then it's from 10:30 to 7.
Okay. So for you, I would get ahead. I would try to get ahead and get a little bit more milk those morning sessions or middle of the night because that's when your body is going to have a higher milk production. So if you nurse the baby right after you nurse, you don't have to wait. I would pump for about 10 or 15 minutes or until you pull off half an ounce, an ounce. After you do that for a couple serial days, it'll stimulate your body to make a little bit more milk. And that'll allow you to kind of get ahead to leave a little bit more milk behind when you go to work.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep. And then when you're at work and pumping, whenever your baby is being fed, you should be pumping ideally. So for most babies, that's about every 2 to 3 hours. So if that baby's getting fed, hey, you got somebody at home that's keeping them, hey, send me a quick text. Let me know the baby's eating. I'm gonna make sure that I'm having a milk removal so my body knows that it needs to make milk for the baby that's eating right now.
Okay.
Yes.
We had a question from Josephine. When
Yes.
storing milk supply, is it considered safe to mix milk, then bag up to freeze? For example, staying in a window of 2 to 3 days, 2 or 3 days, then bag.
Ugh, I just really wouldn't. I would stick to like one day only because that you lose a little bit of time when you do that. I just personally stick to like a rule of thumb of a 24-hour period. If you were to mix all the milk from 2 to 3 days, bag it, and then freeze it, it would still be safe. You would just have to label that milk for the oldest day. So like if you pump that milk on Monday and you're freezing it on Thursday and you added all the milk together from Monday to Thursday, that milk has got to be labeled for Monday. And when you're freezing it to first start out, you want to kind of do smaller batches until you can figure out how much milk the baby's going to take from a bottle. So not necessarily, freezing right away in 6 ounce batches of milk, more like 3 or 4, or even 2 in the beginning. Okay. If I want to maximize my supply, should I hold off on using bottles as long as possible? 3 to 5 weeks for the bottles. Yes, you want the baby to get a really good latch right off. So a minimum of 2 weeks of just at the breast, that's going to help regulate your milk supply, kind of tell your body what it needs to make, all those things. And then whenever you go to introduce a bottle, you're going to be introducing pumping because whenever that baby is getting that milk, you got to get it out some kind of way to offer it to them. So you'll introduce pumping at that point. Great questions.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we have time for giveaways.
We do. Sarah just asked a question as well.
Okay.
I currently collect everything from pumping today and use it tomorrow for bottles, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. And then she said that any left over, I bag 4 ounces a bag right now.
That's absolutely perfect. I
Okay.
wouldn't change anything about that. And is that working for you well, Sarah? If
You
it
can
is,
unmute your mics if you wanted to come on and say something.
Yeah, it's working really well for us, especially with my husband helping to feed too.
okay.
Good.
Okay, we'll take this one, then I'll do giveaways. Do you recommend any supplements? I'm glad you asked. We're gonna have another series on that. See, I told you, Rita. We'll have another series on that next month, December 3rd,
Number 3.
on how to increase your milk supply. The thing about herbs, everybody responds to them differently, and it's very, 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 very important to know your medical history before you start taking herbs. What works for me may not work for Sarah. What works for Sarah may not work for Marie. So if you have any kind of underlying insulin resistance, PCOS, thyroid conditions, you have to be very cautious whenever you take herbs because they can actually have you can have a worse reaction to them, and they can actually drop your milk supply instead of helping it. And so the legendary milk, they have different ones that can actually like lower blood glucose too. So if you're taking any kind of metformin or any kind of blood glucose medicines, and you're dealing with diabetes, you have to be very cautious about what herbs you take so that they're not dropping your blood sugar. And then there are some like staples and go-tos. So come back for our December 3rd series.
Yes.
We'll unpack that, and you can also watch my TikTok. I talk a lot about them on my TikTok. But there are some really good wholesome ones that are just good for us outside of lactation that I still even take as not as out of the lactation journey, that are really good. And we'll talk about those. There's also like lactogenic foods that are known, like I was kind of giving some spoiler alerts on those to increase it. But with the legendary milk, you have to be very careful and cautious because not all of those mix well with your body. And the same thing with those teas that are over the counter, like the more milk tea, it has fenugreek in it. And fenugreek is one of those iffy herbs where it might do real good for Miss Rita, but it might not do anything for me, or it might drop my supply when it mixes in with my body composition and my history. So that tea has a lot of great other things in it. I wish they would just take the fenugreek out, and I would be like, yes, every mom could benefit from this practically. But because that fenugreek is in there, it kind of errs us on caution. It can upset babies' stomachs, and if you have a baby that's in the NICU, you have to be extremely cautious of taking any herbs while you are lactating, because that can affect those more fragile infants in their stomachs.
Right. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording right now, and then we're going to do some giveaways. So everybody stay on. We got some giveaways. Hold on one second.
Yes.